Welcome to your weekly astrology and zodiac forecast for week commencing the 23rd of June. I'm going to share some standout details to begin with to look out for. Then on screen, the event chart right at the start of the week, which always provides an influential backdrop for the whole 7 days. I'll go through each of the key influences thereafter, frame by frame, to give a clear picture of what we can collectively expect. Please stay with me. I'll then go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces, which you can relate to in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. A very warm welcome. Thank you so much for all your views and interactions. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please help it to continue to thrive and click that sub button, but also the bell notification symbol. If you would like to work with me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. It's always a privilege to work directly with people, but also it's very humbling what people do say about the sessions. Please check them out. Now, year 2025 is rattling by, as I've mentioned before, and you can take advantage of my unique special offer and order your personal transits for year 2026. Get the rest of this year free, but also get your life roadmap report. Absolutely individual to each person it's produced for. You'll get 30% off, but this gives searing insights to the patterns that are played out in our lives so far and helps us to get a much more intimate understanding of how to work with those energies future forwards, and together with our transits, time our moves as well as we can. Please see below for more. My new website continues to grow in visitors. Please join us at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes, and enjoy my three-card tarot as many times as you like. It's absolutely brilliant, if I say so myself. Thank you if you become a member of the channel, and thank you too to my patrons. I really appreciate the support. I've set the entry prices as low as I possibly can. I am going to be doing more for members only as we go into the autumn. Please look out for those as I launch my masterclasses. But as we go into this week, we're really beginning the journey of a 13-week period as the sun finds his place in Cancer. That's because each of the cardinal signs of Aries, Cancer, Libra and Capricorn usher in a cardinal quadrant. This is cardinal quadrant 2 that we've just entered. But the welcoming committee, as the sun returned to Cancer with the solstice, was the gorgeous Jupiter, exalted in the sign of Cancer. So as we come into this new week, that relationship is still very much to the fore. In fact, on Tuesday, they're going to forge a perfect alliance, totally unify in a GEMINI. We're going to see on Wednesday a new moon in Cancer. Because the moon rules the sign of Cancer, in terms of the emotional cycle of life, it's the most powerful new moon of each year. But this week sees Mars, the planet of drive and passion, newly arrived in the practical, precise Virgo, being very supportive to the Sun but also Jupiter. But Mars is causing mischief elsewhere, and we also have Saturn and Neptune, who could be slowing down our desire to work on our home, emotional and nurturing strands, which comes from that Cancerian energy. As we get towards the end of the week on Thursday, Mercury darts out of Cancer and into the fiery Leo. People with Mercury in Leo are very prideful about their ideas, but by the end of the week, Mercury is in an exact opposition with Pluto, and that could lead to some very tense exchanges as the cosmic curtain comes down on this week. But on the screen now, I'm showing the event chart right at the top of the week. Now, as ever, we need to be mindful of the two luminaries, and the moon, which is obviously a massive player this week, is emerging towards the end of the sign of Taurus. But the moon loves being here. She's exalted in Taurus, but she's going to forge an edgy link to Uranus, but also a square to Mars as we come into the week. So I feel that there is going to be some tension still playing out around us. Now, because we do have Mars newly arrived in Virgo, let's think about the virtues of that. Mars in Virgo is great if we want to focus on the details. If we're someone that's more in touch with the big picture, it could seem a little bit of a drag if something or someone is asking us to pick up on some responsibility. But if we do want to get active around decluttering, catching up on do-it-yourself tasks, I think Mars's application to Jupiter and the Sun, and also the new moon this week, is very constructive. It's just that Mars starts this week in a very tense alliance to Pluto. It's co-ruler of the sign of Scorpio, but also a tense alliance to Saturn and also Neptune. So indeed, we have what's known as a yod, and that Mars position is the finger of the yod, sometimes known as the finger of God. So what I feel that can happen is that the perfectionism of Virgo and the tendency of Mars to get frustrated with limitations could be a factor this week. And although we can think about Jupiter's exaltation in its cazimi with the Sun on Tuesday as being one of the year's most potentially fortunate moments, this year I think Saturn and Neptune are a total killjoy on that potential for joy. So as much as we can be hopeful and positive around any strand to do with property, to do with family situations, perhaps having some kind of reunion, a celebration, those things can definitely feed into the new moon of Wednesday with Jupiter and Mars so active. But we need to perhaps set our expectations quite realistically. Maybe as our physical energy, which can be influenced by Saturn and Neptune being in Aries, can be a little lower. And maybe our sense of what's imperfect, Mars in the sign of Virgo, can be that much greater. So I feel that if we don't get things done quite as rapidly as we would like, that can create some frustrations. Also, Pluto in the sign of Aquarius is very much about, it's the planet of the collective, but it's all how we're connected together through the sign of Aquarius. That's also in a very testing quincunx to the Sun and also Jupiter as we start this week. So as much as we may want to be in touch with those emotional dimensions, there are other competing energies. So the thing for us all to try to do this week is not get too caught up in setting a long list of things we want to achieve and trying to be very virtuous. It's actually just focusing on what's absolutely essential and use the energy we have got in an intuitive way. So in other words, if we've got big decisions to make that we're not sure about, or we feel a bit baffled, or something seems a bit niggling and irritating, just bring it back to our inner self and make our decisions based on our instincts. Something that can get lost in the world we live in with all the competing information that's frankly very distracting for us. So I think this is a week to try to get some fundamental things done in terms of the energy of Mars, but also just give ourselves the space to just be in touch with those gentle emerging feelings. And the new moon does give us a chance, despite the limiting energy of Saturn and Neptune, to do that. Now, as we come to the end of this week, as I mentioned, Mercury in Leo is very charismatic. But because it does go face to face with Pluto, if we're wanting to do something that's more for ourselves, we could meet resistance from other people who think we should be doing it more for us rather than just them. So if there is something you feel very strongly about and someone else feels that you're being perhaps a bit too caught up in your own personal desires, someone could check us. But I think generally the energy of Cancer this week is a potential to celebrate the opportunity to be in touch with the emotional world. And that emotional world exists within every single one of us. And whilst there may be some distractions, limitations, and irritations this week, we still have the opportunity to go with that flow. I'm going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces now. Please stay with me. So Aries, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast could see you over the next month, in particular with the new moon, wanting to reshape or reconfigure a home or domestic issue. Now, for some Aries people, that may be the desire to move altogether. For others, it could be redecorating. It could be to do with the garden. It may be around childcare. It may be around looking out for older members of your clan. But one of the things that can characterize this week is you might not actually quite find the motivation to do what you really would like to do. So you could start the week feeling virtuous, but then if you don't gain the vitality or the enthusiasm to see through your targets, you could end up feeling quite irritable. And one of the things that could happen is that starts to be directed towards other people who you feel are not doing their bit too. So it's going to be important this week not to project. Be in touch with your vulnerabilities. If there is something that's been getting you down of late, this is a fantastic opportunity to go deep within and really go into the depths and really try to discover if there are some ways that you can release what's blocking or inhibiting you. So I think it is a week to have reasonable expectations. If things are going along pretty well with you, because Mars, your ruler, is in such a strong alliance with the Sun and Jupiter and the new moon, I feel that you could actually get a lot done, but not if you've got lots of competing things for your attention. And that may be where you feel a little bit on edge and find it more difficult to focus on what's what. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. Taurus, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast is going to see a speeding up in the energy around you. And as much as there is an opportunity to be very enthusiastic about ideas, particularly with the Jupiter GEMINI and Mars, the planet of passion, in a very demonstrative part of your chart, linking back to the chatty position of the Sun and Jupiter, because they are in Cancer and we have the Cancer new moon, important to stay in touch with the meaning behind your ideas or what you want to say. I think a classic example, particularly in British culture, is when people ask us how we are and we say, oh, I'm absolutely fine, you know, our leg could be hanging off. So it's an opportunity this week to be much more in touch with the deeper meaning behind what you're saying. And what's moderating that, in your case, is the position of Saturn and Neptune. They're asking you to be very conscious of what your deeper motives are, but also perhaps become more aware of what other people's motives are too. If you're someone who's really interested in expanding your knowledge around any subject this week, the chances are you're going to have quite a voracious appetite to consume information. But you could, if you meet up with people, and it can be the case over the next month, have a very bubbly, charismatic and effervescent experience. But unfortunately, because of the role of Saturn and Neptune, you might also find out who some fair weather friends are over this next 4 weeks too, because they're asking you to be conscious of what's not necessarily obvious, the subconscious, the shadow side of our nature. And that takes me back to my initial point. If you're discussing something or thinking about something, do make sure it is from an emotional perspective, not just from an intellectual, chatty or bubbly perspective. Now later in the week, Mercury is going to be diving into a deeper, more reflective area, but has got the burnished energy of the Leo host. So you could find that if there is something around a family situation, perhaps with a sibling, you may actually want to have a little bit of a heart-to-heart as this week draws to a close. But also, if you're not really enjoying your professional situation at the moment, you could find yourself as the weekends really needing to confront that once and for all. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. Gemini, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast sees the week begin with Mercury, your ruler, in a very positive alliance with Uranus, the planet of innovation. And because the moon passes over Uranus as we come into this week, you may have a bit of a brainwave as we come into the new week, but it could relate to repurposing an old idea or experience, but in a fresh way, which can have some financial benefits for you. The GEMINI of Jupiter on Tuesday also could give you an extra jolt of optimism about improving your financial situation. But your ideas, particularly with the new moon and Mars and Jupiter being in the mix, have to be workable for the long term. And that's where Saturn and Neptune come in. If you have got some very practical ideas and you have planned how they're going to be applied over a period of time, you can still make progress despite Saturn and Neptune potentially slowing things down. It's possible that a friend may disappoint you a little bit this week because their values may not mesh with yours, and that could cause a little bit of a gap between you. With Mars in the part of your situation to do with where you can use its action energy, that could see you doing some things around your home. For some Gemini people, there could even be a home improvement project which will add value to your property. Maybe it is through redecoration. Maybe it is through doing something around your garden. Mars in the 4th house, though, can be a little bit prickly and maybe even a little bit frustrated if things just don't flow as we would like. I think this is also a week that if you do experience a little bit of stress, you may find that your favourite calorific goodie is almost impossible to resist in order to give you some kind of instant hit of endorphin to escape whatever it is that's causing a little bit of a snag. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. For Cancer, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast has a double positive with the Jupiter GEMINI on Tuesday and the new moon on Wednesday. But then the third potential positive is Mars feeding into both. Mars is in the part of your situation that's to do with energy, quick movement, enthusiasm. And if you have got ideas you want to express and they're new ideas, the Sun having found its way into your sign, gaining traction, linking with Jupiter, is pushing you to be more daring, more self-confident, but also look to, in some ways, indulge your individualistic nature. It's just that with Saturn and Neptune right at the top of your chart, if you are someone who finds it a little bit more challenging to push away from what's expected of you, the more conventional route, that could feel a little scary. But sometimes we do have to be very single-minded about what we want to achieve. And you could find yourself over the next month actually doing something that other people may feel is counterintuitive, and it may be to do with your career. So for example, if you have a pretty steady role at the moment, it's pretty well paid and so forth, but you find it totally uninspiring, this could be the time that you set in train the changes that actually give you an opportunity to liberate yourself and demonstrate just how talented you are. On the other hand, if you are a natural bohemian, there are going to be times when you do need to work with people who do have a more conventional take. So you may need to trim towards those and not necessarily expect just to do it on your terms. But if you do want to give yourself some kind of glamorous makeover, or you want to get more active to boost your physical output and health, certainly a week to go for it. As the week draws to a close, you may find yourself, however, having quite an intense conversation about who does or contributes what in terms of shared finances. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. So Leo, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast in some ways is asking you to pause, and that could be counterintuitive for an action-orientated person like you. But that pause will give you the time to think and reflect on what's been going on. The pause could be quite profound for some Leos. It could be just an hour of insightful thinking for others. It depends on your unique situation. What I would say is, because Mars, the planet of action, is now in a very practical sign, but also in your sector of everyday money, don't underestimate all the talent, skills and experiences you've accumulated over a very long period of time. And it could be that something you used to do could be refreshed and used, but in a slightly different way future forwards, and that can come back to you. Now by Thursday, Mercury moves into your sign. If you are feeling that you want to back off from people this week or have that moment of reflection, that's fine, but later in the week you may be much more up for interacting. But I would suggest that you do stick to the people that you really can rely upon, because the 12th house position of the Sun and Jupiter is a time of the year when you do need to be more mindful of who's really in your corner. So if there are some fair weather friends around you, I really don't like talking in a fearful way, but if there are some fair weather friends around you, what can happen is you could have a discussion which appears to be about world affairs, something to do with a philosophy, a point of view, and suddenly their irritation could come up by in some ways undermining you. So important to keep your boundaries in place this week, and just if you are going to spend time with people, ensure it's people that you do feel really safe and comfortable with. But later in the week you can take that idea that's just beginning to germinate, that is a refresh of some kind, and start to take it forwards in a much more dynamic way as Mercury zips into your sign. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. Virgo, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast is really exciting, because with Mars back in your sign, weeks of just feeling that you've had a sense of inertia or uncertainty or perhaps low spirits have been replaced by a desire to get things done. But you can also collaborate well with people, in fact quite superbly. If you are someone who has a good network of friends, you may find yourself going on an outing, getting together. It can be vibrant, it can be bubbly. You can also become much more conscious of your long-term plan. But if you're not very invested in your long-term plan, you're not enjoying your work, or a very close financial arrangement isn't working very well, that could be more challenging. And what Mars linking to Jupiter and the Sun and the new moon could ask you to do is really reflect on your values, because your values can help you to decipher what to do. So if you are in a situation which feels quite heated a little bit aggravating. It would be easy to actually be a bit defensive, or to kind of almost demand that other people comply to your view of it, but they're unlikely to do that. So collaboration and cooperation are important, but if you don't feel that you're going to get those, and that's likely to be beyond your friendship situation and your social interaction, I think that's where things could be a bit more challenging. So if you're not really enjoying your work, this could be a time when you do need to start making some hard and fast moves to change things. But with Mars in your sign through to August the 6th, that's giving you a lot of thrust and a lot of ability to be more confident about the moves you make. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. Libra, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast is your opportunity with the Jupiter GEMINI and the Cancer new moon to really shoot for the stars when it comes to your ambitions. But ironically, because Mars is in a very private part of your situation and is quite the influence this week, it may be your subtlety which is just as important to the more obvious moves that you make. For example, old contacts that you once had could come back into play. But because Saturn and Neptune do square up with the Jupiter GEMINI and the new moon, and they're in your sector of relating, if you work in an environment where you feel you're being blocked, your talents aren't being allowed to shine, perhaps because someone feels a little threatened by your ability, wants to keep you in the role as it is now, doesn't really want to see you make progress, you may have to seriously consider perhaps moving to a different environment where people will be much more encouraging, but also much more appreciative of what you have to offer. If you are someone who has got a real brilliant idea and you do want to take it forward through self-employment, this can be a time when you can make great progress with that too. And your care in the way you interact with people can be a big part of your assets as far as raising the profile or awareness to what you have to offer. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. Scorpio, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast has the potential to be truly exciting. If you're someone who tends to have a real appreciation of routine, fulfilling your obligations, it could be a little bit of a challenge to push yourself outside what you're so familiar with. But if you do, whether it's through booking a vacation, going on a day trip, doing something completely off the cuff, being spontaneous, perhaps also giving yourself permission to learn or travel somewhere fresh and different, all of those things are going to be very positive for you. And your traditional ruler Mars is very much the cheerleader, asking you to be conscious of your long-term future, not being too caught up in what you need to fulfill now. Now, I'm not saying that you should in any way let people down, but if certain obligations have become rather too limiting, they're stopping you from really growing and thriving and being much more your own person, they may need reviewing, and that's just part of the process of life. Even if we have those commitments, sometimes they do need to be re-evaluated, and this would be a great opportunity for you to just really enjoy the moment and go for it in a very dynamic, adventurous, but also exciting way. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. Sagittarius, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast is particularly important because your ruler Jupiter is right at the heart of the action. And Jupiter forges a very constructive link to Mars, the planet of desire, but also of thrust, which is in a very ambitious part of your scope. If you're wanting to make progress around a business or long-term financial opportunity, as long as you're up for being aware of the potential to speculate, there's a lot to go for, but it may require you to transform in some ways. In other words, to let go of something in order to embrace something fresh and new. In a more personal context, the new moon in the 8th house could make you more conscious of where you're most deeply invested, where you're really devoted potentially. And if the vibes are good, that devotion can get closer still. If not, particularly with Saturn and Neptune in your sector of romance and playfulness, if you feel, for example, that an intimate relationship is stopping you be the free spirit you really like to be, if the other person seems a bit clingy, possessive or controlling, that's something you're going to find quite difficult this week. And Jupiter being in the mix in that very transformational way could give you the confidence to perhaps try to move forwards. Maybe there does need to be a big heart-to-heart, but you may be the one that needs to lead the discussion, but Mars is going to give you the confidence to do that. But if your attention is focused on the outer world and how you want to transform your material situation, and as long as you've done your research, this week can be very dynamic indeed. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. Capricorn, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast does give you some rich possibilities around your connections over the next month through the new moon. You may also be able to celebrate an immediate relationship you have this week by getting together with someone that you just have a lovely simpatico and understanding with. But I feel this week could also flag up who you don't connect with quite so well, particularly if it's someone you are pretty close to. So if a relationship has been bumping along the bottom, and it doesn't have to be a romantic tie, because Mars is in the part of your chart to do with really asserting a more independent side of your nature, but does clash with Saturn and Neptune in a more emotional part of your chart. If you're not feeling that there is that mutual understanding, encouragement and nurture between you and the other person, another part of your nature may see you want to actually mark out your boundaries, because the 7th house can be where we're combative. It's not just where we relate. And with Mars urging you to be in touch with a part of you that enjoys challenges and taking on new experiences, if there is someone you can do that with, whether it is a friend, whether it's a group of people, that's going to be very positive. But if you feel inhibited some way because you don't really feel that comfortable with someone, or they're putting a lot of demands on you, could even be a family member, that you may have to be more assertive around what you will or won't agree to do. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. So Aquarius, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast is an excellent week if you want to grapple with some details. Now, if you're someone like me, who probably is a little bit more comfortable thinking about whatever I'm thinking about and not necessarily catching up with the domestic chores, it's a challenge. But if you are someone who just finds that getting things organised, getting the rhythm going is appealing, and even I need to push myself to engage with this energy, the next month through the new moon this week is a great chance to be a bit more virtuous. And of course, ironically, Mars, the planet of action, is in the sign of virtue of Virgo. So the thrust could be to use that attention to detail also around business matters, finance, because of the 8th house. So, for example, if there's some paperwork that you've been putting off, that would be a prime example of something that could be attended to this week where there is a win. Will you find the spark to do it? Well, it does depend, because Saturn and Neptune are nestling on the third house, which is very much the cusp, very much about how we think, and it can be about getting moving, definitely quick movements, and obviously Saturn can inhibit that, so we could find ourselves a bit reluctant to think about or talk about those practicalities. But if you can just get beyond any initial resistance, actually quite a lot could get achieved. And even if you're someone who prides yourself on being very ordered, there will be some things that you can tease into the open which add some value. Think about it as a week of, or a potential month of marginal gains. So it's not necessarily about achieving a huge step forwards in this 1 week, but if you can take a number of small steps forwards, carry out a number of small improvements, that can all add up to something that's much more fundamental. And that's the opportunity for this week and for the backdrop of the new moon energy. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too. So Pisces, your week commencing the 23rd of June forecast has a marvellous new moon, because for you it's in the 5th house. So the host, Cancer, is of course about the emotional dimension, but the 5th house is about showcasing talent, but it is about warmth, it is about affection, it can be about sociability, enjoying ourselves, getting into the social world. So a fabulous opportunity, particularly because your traditional ruler Jupiter is right at the heart of the mix. But there could be someone that you can work collaboratively with, perhaps on a hobby that you both have, because of Mars being in the 7th house. But equally, because your two rulers are clashing this week, Neptune in the 2nd house, Jupiter in the 5th, but also Saturn's in the mix alongside Neptune, I don't think it's the best of weeks to be too free and easy with your resources, because the 5th house can also be about speculation, and any quick decisions could be decisions that you end up ruining. And that's because Saturn in the 2nd house, particularly through to the end of August, is asking you to conserve money, conserve anything to do with resources, but also be mindful of your value. So for example, if you go on a date or you meet up with some people socially, I wouldn't try too hard to make any big grand gestures to impress people. Just be yourself. And the warmth that can come from this particular new moon, as long as you're not comparing yourself to others, trying to spend money in a way that's not necessary, I feel, and especially if you can link with someone in a very constructive way, can actually be very, very positive for you. Now later in the week, of course, Mercury does move into a more precise part of your chart and does go face to face by Sunday with the tiny bit influential Pluto, locked away in your 12th solar house. Someone could surprise you as the week closed by raising a point which seems to be a little bit like a bit of a needle in your direction. They could be quite specifically picky or critical. So if there is something that you're not quite sure around how someone's being, just make sure you rehearse your responses before Sunday comes along. Thank you so much for joining me. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can get your free daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, general, love and Vedic horoscopes. Enjoy my fantastic free card tarot, and also download your free natal chart too.